Hey, Unearth Utopia fam! Dive into Israel with us. Ancient secrets, modern wonders, all in one amazing place. Ready for the ride? Let's go! Israel is like a bridge between the past and today. Located where Asia, Africa, and Europe meet, it has stories that go back thousands of years, with ancient tales and old cities. Yet at the same time, it's a place buzzing with new ideas and modern life. Imagine a place where you can see old ruins and, just a short drive away, a city with tall buildings and tech companies. That's Israel. A mix of history and today's world all in one country. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle with pieces scattered across continents and through centuries. Each piece tells a tale of hope, journeys, dreams, and struggles. When these pieces come together, they form the vivid picture of Israel's birth. In the far-off chapters of history, in a land of deserts, seas, and ancient cities, the story of the Jewish people began. They sang songs of a homeland, penned poems of longing, and shared tales of their ancestors like Abraham and Moses. As time whizzed by, a movement called Zionism sprouted in the 1800s. Picture it like a big dream, where the Jewish community across the world hoped to stitch their scattered puzzle pieces back together in their ancient home, which was then known as Palestine. However, the 20th century brought dark clouds with it: World War II and the heartbreaking Holocaust. The world, shocked by the depths of this tragedy, looked at the scattered jigsaw pieces with new eyes. The United Nations, a grand assembly of nations, in 1947, sketched out a plan. They imagined a canvas split in two, one part painted as Israel for the Jews and the other for the Arabs, both sharing historical ties to the land. The dawn of May 14th, 1948, saw the Jewish leaders dip their brushes into the palette of history and declare, "Israel is reborn." But like many great artworks, this one had its challenges too. Not everyone agreed with this new masterpiece, leading to tensions and conflicts. Yet, amidst the storm of challenges, the spirit of Israel shone brightly. Today, the echoes of that historic day in 1948 resound as Israel's anthem of freedom and a beacon of hope for many. Imagine being a young child, taking your first steps, eager to explore the world, but constantly stumbling or finding obstacles in your path. That's a bit like Israel in the 1950s and 60s. After its birth in 1948, Israel was like a young nation trying to find its way. It faced many challenges during its early years. Even though Israel was a new country, its neighbors had been there for a long time. They didn't all get along. Picture kids in a playground not sharing their toys. In this case, the toys were pieces of land and important places that both sides believed belonged to them. This led to some big disagreements and even wars. Despite the troubles outside, inside Israel, there was a lot of work to do. People from all over the world were moving to Israel. It was like a big family reunion. But everyone needed places to live, schools, roads, and jobs. Building all this so quickly was like trying to finish a massive puzzle in record time. During these years, there were some big events. In 1956, there was the Suez Crisis, which was a bit like a tug of war involving Israel, Egypt, Britain, France, and even the USA and USSR. Then, in 1967, Israel faced a huge challenge called the Six-Day War. Even though it was called a six-day war, its effects lasted much longer. All these challenges made many in Israel think about who they were and what they stood for. They celebrated their culture, remembered their history, and began to build a modern nation with music, art, and science. So the 1950s and 60s for Israel were like growing up. There were fun times, hard times, lessons learned, and dreams for the future. Through it all, Israel kept moving forward, building its place in the world. Picture being in school, and after a long time of sitting alone, you finally start making friends during lunch breaks. The 1970s for Israel felt a bit like that. After facing many challenges and disagreements with neighbors in its early years, Israel began to reach out and make some important friendships during this decade. The decade started with a shock. In 1973, while many in Israel were celebrating a religious holiday, some neighboring countries launched a surprise attack. This became known as the Yom Kippur War. It was a tough time, but it also made many people realize that finding a peaceful solution was better than continuous fighting. One of the most memorable moments of the 1970s came in 1979. Israel and Egypt, who had been rivals for a long time, decided to become friends. Imagine two kids who always argued in class, suddenly shaking hands and deciding to play together during recess. That's how big a deal it was when the leaders of Israel and Egypt shook hands and signed a peace agreement. This was the first time an Arab country officially recognized Israel and promised to live in peace. With this new friendship with Egypt, Israel hoped to build more bridges with other neighbors. While it wasn't always easy and there were still disagreements, the mood was hopeful. The peace with Egypt showed that it was possible to put aside differences and work together for a better future. Besides politics, the 1970s was a time of change inside Israel too. With more peace and stability, people started focusing on other things like culture, music, and technology. Cities grew, the economy got stronger, and Israel began to feel more and more like a modern, developed country. To sum it up, the 1970s for Israel was like a turning point in a movie. After many ups and downs, our main character starts to find their way, makes new friends, and looks forward to a brighter future. Imagine being a teenager, where one moment you're facing challenges and the next, you're filled with dreams and hopes for the future. The 1980s and 90s for Israel felt a bit like these roller coaster teenage years. The 1980s began with Israel stepping into a neighboring country, Lebanon. Think of it like intervening in a friend's disagreement, hoping to help, but things get more complicated. Israel's goal was to stop attacks from groups in Lebanon, but the situation got tangled and lasted longer than many in Israel hoped. In the midst of challenges, a bright spot appeared in the 1990s. Israel and the Palestinian leaders started talking to each other to find a peaceful solution. It was like two classmates who didn't get along deciding to sit down and sort out their differences. These talks led to the Oslo Accords, a set of agreements that many hoped would be the blueprint for peace. There were iconic moments like when the leaders of Israel and Palestine shook hands in front of the world in 1993. It was a symbol of hope. Just like in high school where friendships can sometimes be tested, the path to peace was rocky. There were moments of trust, followed by times of doubt and violence. Inside Israel, things were changing too. The country was growing up, becoming more modern. Technology started booming, and Israel earned a nickname as the Startup Nation because of its many new tech companies. Music, movies, and arts flourished, and the spirit of the people was a mix of hope, determination, and creativity. As the 90s ended, Israel was at a crossroads, much like a teenager becoming an adult. There were memories of the past, challenges of the present, and dreams for the future. But through it all, there was a sense that change was possible and that a brighter tomorrow could be built. In essence, the 1980s and 90s for Israel were filled with highs and lows, much like the ups and downs of growing up. Through trials and triumphs, the nation kept moving forward, ever hopeful. Imagine you just graduated from school, stepping into the bigger world with all its challenges and opportunities. That's Israel entering the 2000s, navigating the complexities of adulthood while holding on to its hopes and dreams. The early 2000s were not easy. Just as the millennium turned, Israel faced a wave of violence called the Second Intifada. It was like a storm at sea, where waves of tension between Israelis and Palestinians clashed, making the dream of peace seem distant. Even amidst challenges, there were attempts to connect. Leaders from both sides met, trying to find solutions. These talks were like difficult conversations where understanding the other person is tough. Both try because they know it's important. On the home front, Israel was buzzing with new ideas. Tech companies sprouted everywhere. Israel became known as a place where cool new gadgets and apps were born. Just as someone might find their passion and excel in it after school, Israel found a niche in technology and innovation. The wider neighborhood was also changing. Countries around Israel went through big shifts, like the Arab Spring. It was as if the whole street where Israel lived was undergoing renovations, and Israel had to figure out how to be a good neighbor in changing times. One of the bright spots came in 2020 with the Abraham Accords. Israel and a few Arab countries like the UAE and Bahrain decided to become official friends. It was a moment of hope, like rekindling friendships from the past and looking forward to better days. As the years rolled on, Israel, like a young adult, continued to learn, adapt, and hope for a better tomorrow. The journey had its share of hurdles, but also moments that sparkled with promise. To sum it up, the 2000s and beyond for Israel were about navigating the challenges of a new era while harnessing the opportunities it brought. Through each twist and turn, a spirit of resilience and innovation shone, pointing the way to the future. On October 7th, 2023, Israel went through a day no one will ever forget. Hamas, a group from Gaza, attacked in a way nobody had seen before. They fired thousands of rockets into Israel, but they didn't stop there. They also broke into Israel and took over 200 people hostage. To make things even worse, they killed more than 1,400 people, which is the most since a really sad time called the Holocaust. Israel was not going to let this go. They started their own mission called Operation Swords of Iron. They hit back at places in Gaza where they believed Hamas was based. They also stopped important things like water and fuel from getting into Gaza. The Israeli army even told people in Gaza to leave their homes because it wasn't safe. But leaving was hard because the exit points from Gaza were closed. One big problem was the hostages. Israel was careful because they didn't want to hurt them. Then a video came out. It was of a 21-year-old woman from Israel named Skem. She was hurt and was asking to be sent back home. This made everything more intense. Hamas told the people in Gaza something different. They said, "Don't leave your homes." They thought Israel was just trying to scare them. This whole situation was really tough for everyone. People all around the world watched closely, hoping things would get better soon. As we close this chapter, let's remember that every story, every moment we've shared today, is a testament to the human spirit and our journey together. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights and stories. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.